大家好，我叫黃雪琴，我都曾經俾人性騷擾過。
This is Sophia Huang Xueqin, one of China's most high-profile women's rights campaigners and journalists.
我就 feel 到咗佢就攬實咗我，之後我就感覺到佢從我嘅頭頂啦，錫到我個 forehead 啦，然後想錫我嘴。
Her sexual assault drove her to kickstart China's Me Too movement.
即係我做錯咗咩？你點解要咁對我？就好嬲，突然之間有個怒火啦，我就 kick 咗佢一下。
In September 2021, en route to the airport to catch a flight to England, Sophia and fellow activist Wang Jianbing vanished.
我个人是非常担心雪琴目前的情况，我们都不知道她现在的状况是怎么样。
In China, feminists are being rounded up and questioned in a wider state crackdown on activists.
There's no offline campaigns anymore. The political atmosphere become very nervous.
Tens of thousands like Sophia have been detained, and feminists who continue to speak out are forced to remain anonymous.
I have a lot of trauma. I'm afraid the police will come and knock my door, took me away again.
Now, months after her disappearance, BBC I investigates how Sophia's story is being erased, how China's censors are carrying out a disinformation campaign against her.
中国当局的宣传力量来针对她，这是一个很可怕的现象。
And in England, where Sophia should be studying on a British government scholarship, there's been silence. This is her story.
我其实有很多的场合都会想到雪琴。我其实真的很希望你就在这里，然后我们可以一起在你们的学校走走，然后一起来这片海看一看。在内地，你做一个不仅是做一个女权主义者，你做一个新闻的媒体人，你的整个风险都会比过往要来得高很多。
When Me Too began taking the world by storm, Sophia brought the movement to China by investigating sexual harassment in the Chinese media.
I was thinking to start a Me Too in China too, but because the Chinese people are so conservative, none of the female journalists said, okay, I'm going to do it with me. So I feel like I need to do it in a different way.
She carried out a survey and discovered that 80% of female journalists have experienced such attacks.
有当事人出来告诉大家我被人性骚扰之后，很多人第一反应就是，是不是他做错了什么事情？
Sophia went on to report on China's most high-profile Me Too cases, sparking a dialogue that encouraged more women to speak out. But as the movement grew, so did the backlash.
从2020年开始，Me Too 运动已经完全被政治化了。我们国政府的发言里面都很强调 Me Too 是被西方势力所控制的。
Crackdowns on freedom of speech have intensified over the years, not only in mainland China, but also in Hong Kong. In 2019, as Hong Kong's pro-democracy protests were gaining momentum, Sophia was arrested for reporting on them. But she fights back, even in detention. From behind bars, she wrote this letter insisting that journalism is not a crime.
I am proud of who I am, even if it brought me to the cell now. They said I can be released if I confess the crime and promise never to write against them again. I refuse. I will bear the cost and price of my reporting.
After 3 months in detention, Sophia is released. But she remained under surveillance. A camera is installed outside her home in Guangzhou. In an act of defiance, she recorded herself holding banners, singing protest songs, and reading George Orwell's 1984 in front of it.
你好，我叫 Chris， 我是雪晴的朋友，同时也是一个 feminist。
Chris, not their real name, agreed to speak to us on the condition of anonymity for fear of reprisals from the Chinese state.
当他去面对那么多的挑战，他还是很坚持他想做的事情。我觉得雪晴她的那个报道，其实是会比其他的一些报道，特别在 Me Too 方面是更有 power， 她会有那个 feminist 的视角。
Before Sophia kick-started the Me Too movement in China, the country already had a long history of feminist activism.
My name is Li Maizi. I'm from Beijing. I'm an activist.
Maizi first gained public attention in 2012 when she marched down the streets of Beijing in a blood-stained wedding dress to protest domestic violence. On International Women's Day in 2015, Maizi and 4 other feminists were arrested for planning to hand out stickers about sexual harassment on public transport. They were detained for 37 days, prompting global outrage.
The Me Too movement provides a venue for people to speak it out. I grew up in an abusive family. I started to realize that there's a lot of gender inequality, gender discrimination happened in China. So I initiated a lot of advocacy campaigns, protests.
In recent years, Maizi has faced growing attacks online for posting feminist content. Last year, her Weibo account was taken down for allegedly posting illegal and harmful information. But hers isn't an isolated case. Dozens of other accounts related to gender issues were blocked in a coordinated censorship crackdown by the Chinese state. Feminists have used the emojis for rice and bunny, pronounced Me Too in Mandarin, as one of many homophones to evade censors. It became a symbol of the movement.
我叫刘立鹏，我从中国来，现在居住在美国。我之前做过新浪微博的审查员。
Between 2011 and 2013, Liu worked at Weibo, one of China's largest social media platforms.
它更像是一个工厂的操作工，你每天需要面对大量的内容。
He would review up to 60,000 posts per day.
你需要做的是条件反射，你的第一直觉是决定了这条内容是否会被删。黄雪琴她是一个很著名的记者，如果你想要把她之前的一切全都抹掉的话，是一个很难的一个措施。中国当局的宣传力量来针对她，想要污名化她，想要把这个人塑造成另一个形象。你很难区分一个五毛，也就是网络评论员，中国官方的，和一个普通网民这是一个很可怕的现象。
Despite these attacks, Sophia continues to report. In the summer of 2021, she is awarded the prestigious Chevening Scholarship, funded by the British government, to pursue gender studies at the University of Sussex. But Sophia never makes it to England. On September 19 at about 3 p.m., just as they were leaving for the airport, Sophia and fellow activist Wang Jianbing disappeared.
当时我一直有跟他保持联系，然后包括我也计划就是去机场去接他，在这个时间点上面，就突然间他就不回信息了。
No one knew where they were. But now, the BBC can reveal they were detained by the state in secret locations known as black jails. They were held in solitary confinement in conditions similar to these. They had no access to lawyers and the outside world. And their friends weren't safe either.
任何人只要跟雪晴和坚定有关系，都会被警方以莫须有的名义，然后进行传唤审讯。
Supporters say at least 70 of their friends were rounded up, questioned, and interrogated by the Guangzhou National Security Police.
每个人都至少有10多个警察进行调查审讯，连续24小时，甚至更长，甚至逼迫他们去签署一些伪造的一些笔录和证据。
After 1 month in isolated detention, with no news of the pair's whereabouts, reports start to circulate that Sophia and Jianbing have been transferred to detention centers in Guangzhou. They were being held on suspicion of inciting subversion of state power, a serious charge that could see them facing years behind bars.
知道他失联了，然后可能被捕了的消息，我是非常 shock。他在做的一些报道，怎么去帮助那些，比如说 Me Too 运动的受害者，我不知道为什么要用这么严重的一个罪名，然后放在这样的一个 feminist 的记者身上。他有没有可能，比如说被酷刑，然后有没有可能受到一些不知道一些逼供的手段等等的。
The BBC has gained rare access to several women previously detained for their activism in similar conditions to Sophia. They have agreed to speak to us on the condition of anonymity.
The first night I was detained, I only had very, very little space to sleep. You will spend 1 month, or some people spend years in the same room.
You don't have access with outside, you don't know what's going on. It's kind of a torture for several months. You just couldn't eat well, sleep well, and maybe you have some nightmares.
In solidarity with Sophia and Jianbing, supporters held protests around the world, wearing masks displaying their faces. They sent postcards to the detention center calling for the pair's release.
他做过很多报道，坚持在中国政府的打压之下讲真话，那我很敬佩他这一点。
Many are Chinese citizens working and studying abroad.
我们也想借此来表现，我们并不会，就此沉默，我们也要发出自己的声音。
Sophia and Jianbing have now been detained for over 6 months. If they were free, Jianbing would be home with his family, and Sophia would be here, doing her master's degree at the University of Sussex in Brighton.
今天其实是我第一次来到 Brighton， 然后第一次看到这片海，第一次来到你的学校。
At the time of Sophia's disappearance back in September 2021, Sussex University put out this statement.
We are concerned about the safety and whereabouts of our students. Our staff are liaising with Chevening to seek further details.
But since then, neither the university nor Chevening have published any further statements. Chevening states its mission is to develop global leaders and a community that creates positive change around the world. And Sussex is a university which has a long history of supporting free speech and social justice movements. So why have both remained silent about Sophia?
学校的处境也会非常尴尬，就一方面他们不想惹怒中国政府，一方面就是他们又没有保护好自己的学生。
Students from China make up over 20% of international enrollment at Sussex. Tuition fees from China and partnerships with Chinese academic institutions provide an important revenue stream for the university.
中国学生作为英国最大的国际学生的来源， 很长时间都是被当作一种 cash cow 来利用的。
In an email leaked to the BBC, students and faculty staff were warned not to discuss Sophia's situation. The university said this was a sensitive matter and requests should be dealt with by the press office, citing data protection concerns.
我第一感觉确实是气愤的，你是在培育那些未来要为这些发展领域、要为这些女权领域去做贡献的那些行动者、那些领导人，然后你居然在教育你的学生不要去谈论这些事情，那其实你跟在中国的情况是很相似的。
The University of Sussex told the BBC it remains deeply concerned about the safety and whereabouts of its prospective student, and says it has been in regular contact with both the Foreign and Commonwealth Office and Chevening. It added that it has followed the advice of the FCDO, saying its concern for its prospective student has guided its actions at all times.
无论你是在国内还是在外面，就好像就在一个围城的墙内和墙外一样，只有他们自由了，我们才能真正的获得自由。
Sophia and Jianbing's cases have now been handed over to prosecutors in China, and both are expected to face trial soon.